Test. Test 1, 2, 3. Sophia, you coming? It's okay. Ethan, on your way? You are? Oh, I missed you somehow. Okay, good. Spencer Bavia wants to know what's behind you. What? I don't see anything behind Spencer. What's so strange? All right, we're only missing a person or two. I think we're good to go here. Welcome back again for a lot of you. We'll go over the agenda real fast. It's been a little while. Several things going on here. Grammar lesson 14 by Wednesday night. Vocab lesson 6 creative usage by tonight. If you looked at this earlier, then 7:30, 7:45-ish, I did add something else here. I want you to complete notes on the first 3 videos on writing about literature. Oh, there's Alex. 7A, 7B, and 7C. Those are, you will see those assigned when you go into AP Classroom. Also by tomorrow night. Obviously, you should complete work on Hamlet Act 4, which we're going to talk about now. Anybody have any questions about anything going on? All good. Gonna be wrapping up another unit here real fast. My plan is to try to squeeze in the next short story unit while we finish this semester. How much class do we have when we come back from Christmas break? Do we have like a full week of classes before exams? I can't remember. Do you guys know? I could look at a calendar and figure this out easily, but none of us know. We don't know what the hell's going on. Not me, not you. All right, I'll look later and figure that out. Anyway, all right, let's do it. If you haven't already, if you could access your Hamlet study guide stuff, your reader's logs, and we will dive right in a sec here. I'm going to, well, I think I'll leave it on the grid for now, actually, and screen share the text a little bit later. Okay, so in Act 3 is when Hamlet somewhat accidentally offs Polonius, right? And so we were kind of thinking at the end of that act, all right, well, what the heck is Claudius going to do about that, right? So why, he gives a fairly lengthy explanation about this. After the death of Polonius, why doesn't he put the strong law on him? Why doesn't he just have him arrested or even executed or anything?
Because he says that the public will get mad because it's like Hamlet.
Everybody loves Hamlet. He's a popular guy, right? And his mom dotes on him, right? right? Like her happiness or fragile happiness also is kind of dependent on him too. So, yep, pretty much. Okay, second question. In his apparent madness, how does Hamlet use humor as a kind of weapon when he faces Rosencrantz and Guildenstern? This is really just kind of one big joke. What does he call them? We're racking up the reader's log queue, so feel free to do that. Also, if anybody wants to ask me if I do have you recorded for two already, if you've lost track, I can let you know that I have that in front of me. What does he call him? And why?
Sponge.
Yeah, who's talking there? Who is that?
Me, Sophia.
Sorry?
Sophia, it's me. Hello.
Sophia. It's hard to
Yeah.
tell sometimes with the masks and if your
No,
little
you're
square doesn't
fine.
light up. Yeah, why does he call him that? How does that make sense?
He's just like saying that he's like soaking up the king's attention and good graces and everything, but it's gonna get squeezed out of them once the king is done with them, and then they're
Right.
gonna go search another.
Right, he'll wring him out and toss him aside, right? Which is probably pretty accurate, right? Okay, let's keep moving. Three, how does Hamlet, what does Hamlet resolve to do after his chance encounter with the captain in the army of Fortinbras? Excuse me, I've always found this to be a little bit of a stretch of a coincidence that they happen to run into each other with Hamlet going out to the coast and Fortinbras's army just happens to be going by. But it's you see why Shakespeare's doing it, right? Because he's been this character foil to Hamlet in ways, even though we haven't met him personally. So now we actually see him briefly, although he and Hamlet don't talk directly. But what do Hamlet's thoughts as he has a soliloquy right after that chance encounter with the army of Fortinbras as he talks to himself? Number three. Put it this way, what does he resolve to do and why?
Okay,
as a
I'll
result?
go.
He said he'll be decisive and he'll just like, I think he said may his thoughts be bloody. So he's going to actually go through with the murder of Claudius. But I feel like something's going to go wrong again. And he'll like accidentally kill someone else, maybe like Laertes or something.
Yeah, let my thought from this point forth, let my thoughts be bloody or nothing worth. That's a good line to pick out there. And of course, yeah, duh, Hamlet, that's what we've been waiting for you to do, like the whole play, right? He gets frustrating sometimes. But he sees these guys who are going to go fight over this worthless piece of land, right? Because they said they were going to do it and honors at the stake, right? So it's not only being decisive, but it's like a point of honor to follow through with something that you had promised to do or you were obliged to do or that is your duty to do, right? And it's Hamlet's duty to himself and to his father since he asked him to do this, a strange request. And so, yeah, do we buy that or not? Well, I don't know. We'll see. But he's promising to himself that he will be decisive from this point forth. Good. All right. 4, weird scene, right? So Ophelia comes in and she's obviously had some kind of breakdown, lost her mind. What parts of the things that she says did you see as actually connected to reality, and does it reveal any information that we didn't already know or anything like that? Number 4.
And the part where she's singing of Valentine's Day, she talks about some things that may have happened with her and Hamlet.
She does, yeah, and it pretty much implies that, yeah, they have been an intimate couple for sure, right? And she seems kind of upset that they were, and then the things fell apart, right? And that would be particularly devastating to someone in her world and time, right? Especially if it were out. But that's been kind of ambiguous. We don't really know the extent of the relationship. When someone puts this on, you can depict it however you want as far as like what the audience is supposed to think, but those are the lines that really kind of let that out. Something about let in the maid the chamber door, and never a maid departed more, maid as in the virginal sense, right? And so the person who was that, is not the person who came back out. Anything about anybody else? Obviously she's very upset about what other big thing that's referenced there when she talks about someone being dead.
Her father, Polonius, is dead.
Yes. And, you might carelessly forget that it is her, her ex with whom she was intimate who has killed her father. I mean, that is a pretty messed up situation, right? So you can see how Ophelia is struggling. Not that she had an easy life before that with everything that's going on. Okay. How has the political situation changed by the death of Polonius and the removal of Hamlet from the scene? Political situation isn't how they might be viewed by possible enemies and things like that is kind of what we're trying to get at there.
I was talking about how people were saying Laertes could be the next king. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, yep. That's actually another way of answering the question. That's definitely legit too. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and for the way you were talking about answering the question, yeah, and it would be because there's a lot of not really unrest, but uncertainty in the royal, not really family at this point.
Just in the court, whatever, the leadership. Instability, right? You don't want to look unstable. I mean, you hear that all the time with our politics, and when there's staff or cabinet members turning over or things like that, and people start to get worried, like, do we want to look like we're unstable, in the face of any potential enemies or things like that? That's something that countries always think about. And so same here, right? It's like the lead advisor to the king is dead. His nephew, who is the son of the other king, is taken off to go do something. The son of the dead chancellor is coming back in, and it looks like he's going to start a coup for a little bit, right? All those suggest a lot of instability, and we wonder Fortinbras is still out there somewhere, right? Is he really just attacking Poland and that's all that's going on, or is he kind of licking his chops and thinking, hey, I could still get my real revenge even though my uncle's telling me not to? If you're a good leader, that's what you would be thinking about, right? But Claudius is distracted by these other things. All right, so obviously the person who becomes Claudius's new ally in the plot against Hamlet is of course Laertes, who has heard that his father is dead and seems to not really know all the details, right, of everything that's happened. And then he comes home, and this kind of like makes for a real easy situation for the king, right? Because before he starts to get news about something else, what is he going to be able to do? Short pause for breakfast for anybody who wants it. There is still free breakfast. Just answer the question. My entire cohort just went out to the hall. Question while they're out in the hall. Did anybody?
Now that Laertes is his ally, I feel like he'll be able to pass like all the blame off on him if the whole unbaited foil thing works. Because Hamlet, he was like, oh, he'll just get a slap on the wrist because he's like such a Renaissance man. But like Laertes is kind of like, I don't know if he's a jerk, but I feel like he's kind of like not the best person. But it did say that the rabble likes him, so that's like the working class, the poor people in my understanding. But like, I feel like they'll be like, oh, it's just Laertes, whatever. We didn't like Polonius. Ophelia's in that case. Let's just like.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing to bring up about Laertes, like, because we're kind of seeing him as a bad guy because now he's being set up as an opponent to Hamlet. But if you put yourself in his shoes, right, like, other than the fact that he, kind of weakly bends to whatever his father used to tell him when his father was alive, but he's kind of a victim of circumstance too, right? So you got to think about how we judge him there, because like if you were him and you just hear that your father's dead, you hear Hamlet might have something to do with it and stuff, and then here's the king like telling you, hey, we're going to do this. Now at that point, should he be like, well, wait, that's really like dishonest and horrible, and that's not like a fair trial or anything? Yeah, but then but let's just keep thinking about Laertes. It's kind of a complicated character and maybe not enough to totally figure him out yet. But yeah, even before that, Ariana, because the king decides that after he hears that Hamlet's actually coming back, right? Before that, he wasn't expecting Hamlet to come back, right? And then we hear from Horatio that he is coming back, and then the king gets word that he's coming back. But before that, it was going to be easy, right? Like all Claudius would have to do is say, hey, Laertes, yes, your father's dead. That's terrible. Here's what happened. Hamlet did it, and I've already disposed of him. I've already sent him off to his death in England, right? But then that gets ruined because Hamlet has his pirate incident, and somehow he's like headed back. Pirates, that cracks me up. Okay, next question. Describe the fate of Ophelia as reported by Gertrude. And how would we categorize this? Because that is an important question. What happened
Ophelia
to Ophelia?
drowned.
Is that you, Jaron?
Well, yeah, that is me.
Yep.
Ophelia drowned by word of Gertrude, but like the way she was saying that she was chanting and everything and saying that her clothes were like too heavy for her to get back up, I genuinely think it was a suicide.
You do or don't?
I do.
Okay. She certainly sounds like she didn't bother to lift herself up out of the water. That's for sure. So it's kind of
My
a gray.
thought is that it like whether it's hard to tell if she fell into the water on purpose.
Mhm.
She may or may not have, but once she was in there, she just didn't bother getting out.
Right. You'll see as the story goes, I think Shakespeare very purposely is leaving it open to interpretation, and to not know whether she killed herself or not is going to be problematic, because then you don't know what to do with her funeral, right? Because if she, with their like religious rites and more strict literal rules about Christianity and this and that, like if she would have killed herself, then she wouldn't be eligible for like full funeral rites, which were very important to them. So that's going to be a subject that's going to come up. All right, and then at the end, what kind of malus Horatio received unexpectedly from Hamlet? I kind of already went over that, right? That he's on his way. He was captured by pirates. He somehow was able to convince them to bring him back. But what's weird about that is what are Rosencrantz and Guildenstern doing now? They're still sailing on to England, allegedly without Hamlet, with a message from the king to execute this guy that they have with him, but he's not with them anymore. So maybe we haven't heard the full story on that yet.
Yes. I'm just kind of guessing that either they're trying to avoid more conflict with the pirates, or they don't want to return empty-handed.
Mhm.
Either way, because they're portrayed as not being very bright,
Sure.
but I'm pretty sure anybody would notice that their main, like the entire reason for that voyage has
He's not
disappeared.
there. He's absent. He's not there. Okay, so we'll see what happens with that. All right, so that takes into the meanings question. So compare the mad scenes of Hamlet and Ophelia in Act 4. What did the scenes reveal about the nature of each character and his or her vulnerability? That question also answers itself, but sadly, we see what? Maybe that Ophelia is a lot more vulnerable. It didn't take as much to make her fall apart, right? Like Hamlet's indecisive, right? And he gets upset and he thinks to himself. But even with all the things that are happening, he's, somewhat still able to hold himself together, even though he hasn't totally followed through with what he's going to do. All right, I'm going to keep moving here because I know we're going to have a lot of readers' logs to share. Act 4, Scene 4 describe Hamlet's feelings at this point about the relationship of thought to action, the idea of honor. And that is the soliloquy, right? I'm sure you guys probably, we're going to hear some readers' logs about that. But you get the gist of that speech, right? It's like, Hamlet's like, surely it's already garrisoned, right? Like, surely they're already, no, he's saying surely they're not going to defend it. If it's just a worthless piece of land, they say, no, it is. It's already garrisoned. They're guarding it, right? And so they're fighting over nothing, but they're fighting for their own honor, right? When honor is at the stake. And then Hamlet feels like he's not doing that, and he must, and he needs to. How about Ophelia's thought of number 11? We know what we are, but know not what we may be. She says that right after they say the owl was a baker's daughter, which relates, I believe, to some sort of fable or myth. I can't remember the full story, but it's like, the origin of the owl used to be a baker's daughter or something, and transformed into something else. So that kind of gives you a hint as far as where she's going with that. What do you think she means when she says it? Let's answer that, number 11.
I took it as we know who we are until something traumatic happens or disaster hits, and then we don't know where to go and how to pick up the pieces. Because with Hamlet, he got really depressed and indecisive. I don't know if he was super decisive before, but he seemed to be doing a lot of stuff. He was in college, he was a soldier, he was a scholar, all this other crap, and now he doesn't know what he's doing. Gertrude was like, oh yeah, I love my husband, he's so great, he's a great man. And then 2 months, the body's not even cold, she's married to his brother and happy again. And then Ophelia was kind of happy, kind of carefree for her situation, and then now she's just singing and praying and then dying.
And her dad's dead, and he was killed by her ex-boyfriend, and so it's like you can think that what you are, your position in life is great and subconsciously it's permanent. It's going to last forever. Everything's going to be fine. And then the next thing you know, like Ariana said about all those people, everything's just like messed up, turned upside down, ruined, killed. So great answer. Thank you. All right, let's keep moving. Hamlet's use of humor in his confrontation with the king, the more the absurd things that he says. What does he kind of make the point of? He's kind of insulting Claudius there. Basically how we all end up what? Even you, Claudius.
Worm food.
Exactly, in a nutshell, right? Worm food. Anyway, even talks about how the remnants of a beggar can go through the guts of a king or something like that, right? So we're all reduced to equality in the end. We're all mortals, right? And he seems to have, kind of an increasing understanding of mortality and maybe kind of accepting that in such a way where, maybe part of what he needs to stop doing is like thinking too much about his own life and thinking about nothing but, the cause here. We'll see how that affects the action of the rest of the play. And then the last question, which I think is a really good one, is what problems exist in the play at the end of Act 4? What are the loose ends? The main ones, the minor ones, all the different characters. You're wondering what they know, how they'll end up. What are we wondering as far as how it's going to play out in Act 5?
There's going to be lots of problems because everyone wants to kill each other. So Hamlet wants to kill the king. Laertes wants to kill Hamlet. The king wants Hamlet dead as well, so his secret doesn't come out. Fortinbras wants to do something. I don't know what he's going to do, but he's there. So that's already a problem in itself.
Hard to imagine he's completely let go of the feeling of his feelings for revenge that he was originally motivated by, right?
Yeah, so we can assume that they're going to team up or something. Maybe, I don't know. And then at the end, and this is a Shakespeare play, so I'm assuming everyone dies at the end. That's just not
It doesn't mean everybody dies, but there is a huge downfall, and it usually involves death, and it usually involves the death of the tragic hero for sure. So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe he'll make it. Who knows? Anybody else? Other characters? Those are like the main kind of like political big revenge stuff. What about Gertrude? What are we wondering about her? Anything? Will we find out? What?
I want to know how she knew so much information about Ophelia's death. Like, she specifically said, oh, her clothes fanned out mermaid-like. They had so much water. She was singing. She was collecting dead man's fingers. And then a branch gave way, and then she just drowned suspiciously. And I'm like, were you watching the whole time and just not doing anything?
Yeah.
Or
I think I might have joked about that a little bit in my video, because I think that's actually just kind of a weakness in Shakespeare's storytelling there, that it's not like they have like security cameras recording these things or anything. So whoever was watching that, why did they just like sit there and watch it? But I think it's more just a little bit of carelessness in the storytelling. But yeah, I mean, the question is, are we gonna find out, for sure, whether she was trying to take her own life? I mean, it's a good thing to wonder. And then with also Gertrude, will we ever find out whether she was in on or knew anything about the killing of her husband? Right, that's kind of hanging out there. We'll never know with Polonius because he's gone. And then of course, what will happen in the duel between Laertes and Hamlet? That's certainly setting up for a pretty interesting climax there. All right, reader's logs. You guys look at the queue and you can just go in order like we did last time. That worked fine. And I'm going to switch over to showing the text. If I can find it. There we go. All right, can you guys see the text now? Yes. All right, whoever's first, go ahead.
I'm first, Emma Sprague.
Okay.
And then my part starts with I have sent to seek him. It's like right at the start of scene 3.
Got it.
So I did that, and then I picked readers can infer a character's motives from that character's actions or inactions. And I said that this is when the king is trying to get Hamlet like back to him, like right after he sent Guildenstern or Stern and Rosencrantz to like go find him and bring back Polonius's body.
Mhm.
And I said that he does this without Hamlet, like without Hamlet, or wanting to do it without Hamlet thinking that he's like coming down on him. This is because I think that this is showing the king as a character and how he's thinking of like different possible outcomes, because he doesn't want Hamlet to go hurt more people, and that he's afraid that if he does this too sporadically, then Hamlet will like freak out and he won't like come back to him like he wants. And so
Mhm.
showing him like as a character and helping us see his perspective like behind his own actions.
He also is probably thinking that Claudius is also probably thinking that there had to be something that Hamlet was probably in on the way that play was depicted, right? And so he's probably afraid he's going to be exposed. All right, thank you. Who's next?
Alex, mine thing.
Okay, go ahead, Alex.
Mine started with a heavy deed. And I did a skill that was like the text that contains multiple conflicts.
Okay.
So I said that when Claudius finds out what Hamlet has done to Polonius, I think he gets really nervous about how far Hamlet is willing to go. And I think he's also scared for his reputation and how this is going to affect his like ruling. And you can see the conflict of Claudius's past causing a change in Hamlet, and how the conflict of Hamlet's behavior and him becoming a murderer is causing more conflicts, like with his own friends and family and the relationships he has. And I think like all the conflicts are kind of intersecting more in this scene.
Yeah, for sure. Good. Causes all kinds of weird conflict there. It wasn't something we expected to happen or that anybody knows how to deal with. Alrighty, next one.
This is Kaylee. My quote was, "And A will not come again." That's when Ophelia is singing.
Yep.
The skill I used was character effects, climax, or resolution of a narrative. And she's kind of affecting the resolution of this scene because Laertes and Claudius were kind of just having this calm conversation about like what happened to Polonius, and she comes in and kind of like makes the room a lot more tense and like disrupts the entire conversation. And I think that says something about her because like she cracked under the complete pressure of her father dying, and she couldn't calm herself down, which eventually led to her own death.
Yep. Absolutely, for sure. Hard scene to depict, right? You can tell by the way the characters react to her when she walks in, especially Laertes later. You know, she's got to look like an absolute crazy mess. Okay, next one.
All right, so I'm next. It's Micaiah.
Gotcha.
I did the quote, rightly to be great is not to stir without great argument.
Part of the soliloquy.
Yep.
I've got that highlighted too. Look at that.
All right. So I chose the skill details the character's perspective and that their motives. And I said, directly after Hamlet's encounter with the captain, he finds to be troubled with intrusive thoughts. In his soliloquy, he compares himself to the Norwegian soldiers heading for Poland. Unlike these sake of honor and this illusion of fame, Hamlet has this justifiable cause for action. However, due to his contemplation, Hamlet constantly awaits for the foreseeable future, even at times when exacting revenge would have been best. Yet again, the soldiers display little shame for their cause and instead march right into battle. In turn, this jolts Hamlet's vexation, yet provides him with a little more willpower for the task ahead.
Yep. Hamlet's like, why am I not marching straight in? Right? I have a lot more. It's very similar to, it's kind of a similar feeling, but more real, obviously, than what happened with the actors, right? Because with the actors, he's like, well, why am I not doing anything? Why am I not feeling anything, right? When they look like they are feeling so much about imaginary stuff. And now it's like, here's some guys doing something. He's like, why am I not doing something? Much more of a human, kind of truly human reaction to his problems. He's no superhero. Okay, next.
It's Hebron. The
Yeah.
text that I chose was the body is with the king, but the king is not with the body. And then the skill for that, I said textual details revealing a character. And it's evident that in this line, Hamlet does not really mourn the death of Polonius, and he refuses on countless occasions, like throughout this scene, to reveal where he disposed of the body. And he keeps like teasing Claudius, which I thought was very interesting, and how he kept like making jokes about like where the dead body could be found. And when he was like, oh,
knows him by the stairs.
yeah, and when he was like, oh, the body's in heaven, like go send someone like to heaven to check. Like I thought that was interesting, and it just goes to show that like he doesn't really fear consequence from like the king.
Actually, part of what he means there is when he says, seek him in heaven, and if you find him not there, look for him yourself in the other place, which basically means he's like, telling Claudius to go to hell, which usually you can't do straight to the king. That would be kind of treasonous, right? But yeah, you get the right idea for sure there. He's doing all kinds of weird teasing and stuff, and just feels like he can say anything to him. He's definitely kind of unhinged there. Nice. Next.
This is Connor. And then I did the rabble call him Lord.
Yeah.
Okay. So in this section is basically talking about how Laertes is returning to Denmark with his army of peasants or whatever to like overthrow Claudius. Oh, and this is the presence of additional conflicts like compounds the bigger conflicts. So I was saying that like Laertes returning kind of adds on to the conflicts of Hamlet and Claudius and Laertes. Because he was gone before to France, and now that he's back, he's kind of has this plan to like that he makes with Claudius to like fence with Hamlet, and then like poison his sword, like sharpen and poison his sword to kill Hamlet. And Claudius is also going to poison Hamlet in like his drink or whatever.
The backup plan.
But the Laertes returning is more of a smaller conflict, but it adds a lot to the sort of the bigger overall conflict with Hamlet. With him returning.
Yeah, good. And it also, it takes Claudius's like dishonesty and treachery even like one step further, right? Because he's using Laertes, right? Like we think, oh, Laertes is now, he's like a opponent, enemy of Hamlet, bad guy, but it's really, this is all Claudius, right? Like all of this bad stuff that's going on all traces back to Claudius's treachery, his original-ish sin of killing his own brother, like a Cain and Abel type thing. And all the other stuff is resultant of that, right? All the way down to this. He's still trying to just cover up for himself and take care of Hamlet in a way that's going to seem justifiable to everybody. So Hamlet doesn't finally expose him, which after that play, he's got to be scared that he's going to do, right? So it's kind of sad that Laertes' understandable feelings for revenge are being exploited by Claudius. It sets up, like we said, quite a climax for Act 5 if this goes down like it's supposed to go down. Okay, next.
It's Ariana. I had the quote, follow him at foot, and then until ne'er begun. And I picked the skill with like multiple conflicts intersecting. So I had that there's an internal conflict within Claudius because, he feels guilty for killing his brother. And then which adds to like the external conflict between Hamlet and Claudius because Claudius is suspicious that Hamlet has a secret and it's making him really like paranoid, and the guilt and like the paranoia are feeding into each other. And he doesn't know what he's going to do. Like Polonius, so that acts as like a well-timed scapegoat. So he was going to send him to England, but then of course that didn't work out. So now he's plotting with Laertes. So now it's a conflict between Laertes, Claudius, and Hamlet, even though I don't think Hamlet's like knows about the Laertes thing.
Yeah. But that's good. Well-timed scapegoat. Well-timed scapegoat is a good way to put it for sure. All right, thank you. Who we got next?
All right, this is Andrew. And I had the quote that's, "There is a willow grows aslant a brook." It's the one with
Gertrude talking.
explaining. So we kind of already said before about how it seems like a suicide, but I like thought into it more. And if you think about it, I still think it was a suicide, but it's kind of like more deep than that. Because if you think about the mental state of somebody who just, broke up with somebody and then them having killed their own father, she's obviously not mentally stable in any way. So I figured that this was a suicide, but she also probably wasn't fully there when she was like in the water and everything. Like it said, she was like singing and stuff. So she was probably like, didn't even realize the danger in front of her because her mind was in so many different places at that time. So I think that was still her intention, was to die. But at the same time, I don't think she like actually realized what she was doing. So.
Yeah, I think that's legit because remember all the scenes, obviously that happened before this because she's gone now, but all the scenes where she was depicted as like singing and all this stuff. I mean, she's supposed to be like, there's bits and pieces of reality in there, but she's also like, someone just kind of disconnected for sure. Like she said a nerves, what we call a nervous breakdown. So it makes it complicated whether to judge it suicide or not, and that's something they're going to have to deal with. Okay, who's next? Is there anybody else still, or was that the end? I'm not looking at the chat queue.
I'm next, Maui.
Okay.
I did when Claudius was saying why he couldn't arrest Hamlet right away. It starts with, "I've sent men to find."
Sent men to find. Can you give me a few more words again?
The end is, "or nothing at all."
What's going on here? Where nothing, no, where nothing at all is deducible. Is that it?
I don't think so.
Nothing at all, yet all that. If you can tell me what page it's in the book, either that or just read it for us. I don't want to hold this up too much.
I didn't write the whole line. I only wrote like a couple words in the beginning and the end.
Okay. Who's speaking? Which character is speaking, though?
Claudius.
Okay.
If somebody else wants to go, I can find it real quick.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. We'll come back to you. Who's after Maui?
Okay, I'm next. Okay, so the little like the text is, "My thoughts be bloody or be nothing worth." Okay, and then the skill that I used was a change in a character's perspective over the narrative. So, like, by this point in the act, Hamlet has totally done away with the fact of like thinking before he acts and like just, I mean, having morals just in general. But he's like, if it's not violent, then I don't want to think about it. And he's like, the only thing that's holding me back is the fact that I keep thinking about killing him. I have all the capabilities, so why not just do it? So now he's just like shifted to this entire perspective, like do away with anything thought wise and just do what he feels that needs to be done. So that's why I thought that was a bit of a perspective change.
Yep, absolutely, for sure. Good job. Most decisive we've ever heard him, probably right there, right? We'll see if he follows through. He's got to survive this duel with Laertes first. Okay, next, and then Maui, let me know if when we can come back to you. Otherwise, who's next?
I found
It's
it.
Andrew. And my quote was Horatio when thou, and it's like the letter that Hamlet sent to Horatio.
No.
It's the third one, it looks like.
Angel, my sister, when thou liest howling, or this
No,
one here? Oh, I got it. Yeah, okay. Down here.
Yeah. And I said like the significance of an event. And I said like Hamlet reveals through this letter that he is away from Rosencrantz and Guildenstern after being abducted by pirates, and he later asked the king to be brought back to Denmark. And this event is significant for the play because it affects most of the other characters, and it changes Claudius's like plan for what he's going to do with Hamlet. And obviously, it sets up a nice like the final acts because it sets up him and Laertes to have like a big duel, and it makes it a bit more connected to the rest of the plot. Because if he was just out in England, then it would be a bit disconnected from the rest of the plot and the other characters. So it kind of sets up the final part of the play. And we also don't really know if these pirates are real or not. He could have just like killed Rosencrantz and Guildenstern or something and just made this up. We don't really know.
Who knows at this point? Now he's had a real honest dialogue with Horatio all through this. So if he's making up stuff to him, that would mean he's got nobody left, right? But who knows? Maybe he's like you said, maybe he needs to keep it all to himself. All right. Maui, can we come back to you?
It starts with I have sent to seek him.
Right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is when Claudius is basically saying he can't arrest Hamlet right away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I'm the skill I used with actual evidence conveying the setting. I said you can definitely tell like this is like a medieval type era because they have like the royal family or whatever has like divine powers or whatever. So like they can't do anything wrong, even if he was to like kill somebody, the people would still not like right away like think negatively of him.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like in modern times, if somebody of like political stature were to like do anything bad, like their public perception would go down dramatically.
Right, and the law would go on them no matter what. Yeah, good. Big difference in setting there. Okay, back to the queue. Who's next?
Christopher.
Okay.
I also did There is a Willow Grows a Slant a Brook.
Okay.
I did the skill structure 1M, which is the significance of an event depends on its relationship to the narrative, the conflict, and the development of characters. Since this is about the death of Ophelia, I said it's different from old Hamlet and Polonius's death, because they both serve to develop a plot and Hamlet's character, which like Ophelia's death could have been also to like develop Hamlet and his further descent into madness, I guess. But it's more used as to like kind of show the beginning of Hamlet's downfall, because Polonius's death was like directly in the way of his revenge plan, but Ophelia's death is kind of like on the side. It's like indirectly caused by it, and I guess that kind of shows like the problems with revenge, I guess, and maybe it's showing Shakespeare's theme, kind of like how revenge isn't good.
Yeah, I don't, we're all rooting for Hamlet to get Claudius, of course, right? But like I've said a few times, surely Hamlet can't just be about that, right? Like if Hamlet managed to survive the dual plot with Laertes and somehow gets Claudius and that's it, I mean, what the heck would that mean, right? That it's great if you get revenge and take over and get power. That wouldn't be very good, right? But yeah, Ophelia's kind of for lack of a better phrase, collateral damage, right? Not to reduce her humanity or anything, but it wasn't like directly involved with what was going on. But like you said, things that Hamlet cares about are starting to fall apart. And he certainly cared about her, even though he felt the need to, to let her go. All right, how many more do we have on the queue since I'm not looking? Is there a couple still?
I think it's just me.
Okay, cool.
So for mine, I picked spurns enviously at straws.
Is this Alex talking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it not picking up?
Yep. Just couldn't see your face. Sometimes it gets it, sometimes it doesn't. Let's see. Cause to spurn at him, or spurns the patient merit, or spurns enviously at straws. Is that it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, there it is.
So I did the event significance, and then this is just these 4 words is what I actually picked, just spurns enviously at straws. But this line, despite seeming kind of insignificant, it's the 3rd example of 2 scenes of characters getting angry about pretty much seemingly nothing, because you've got Fortinbras and Hamlet, where while their anger does have direction, it's kind of becoming clear that they're also getting closer and closer to the directionless madness that Ophelia has at that point. Especially Hamlet, who I can't remember, I think it was earlier, vowed that, yeah, it was earlier where he vowed to only entertain violent thoughts, where if he ends up acting this way, he would have essentially lost the reason behind his plot, since he wouldn't be following if he ends up acting violently towards, say, his mother, he would have gone against what his father ended up saying, and he would have lost the direction that he had in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Which is why he reappears and reminds him that. Spurns enviously at straws. All right, is that it? Anybody else? Okay, if rather than do it right here, if anybody is wondering, if you haven't kept, hopefully you've kept track and you know whether you've done none or 1 or 2. But if you've done none, then there is a 20-point test grade attached to this with everything we have in there. This isn't going to be a devastating grade to your quarter or anything. But if you want to make sure and secure that, then you're going to need to make sure and share 2 of these for Act 5, or maybe 1 more if you've done 1 already. And we'll try to keep people, when we talk about Act 5, who already have shared at least 2 times, to maybe back off and make sure we give a chance to everybody who needs to still share 1 or 2. All right, I think that's it. We're going to finish Act 5 for Wednesday night, and I will have the study guide up soon and audio commentaries up probably through the course of the day later. Anybody got any questions? What's going to happen? All right, see you guys. Thank you.